my channel, so excuse the voice if I sound a little bit funny. I do have a little bit of a cold. I'm going to go through all of my Pan palette options for 2025. I'm so excited. I've been working on the Urban Decay Stone vibes this year, as you know, if you've been following me along, and I'm not going to be rolling this into next year. I really feel like I've given it enough love, and obviously I'm going to work on it until the end of December, but I wanted to get your opinion. I did this last year and it was a lot of fun, and a lot of you voted and told me which palettes that you wanted me to pick for next year. So I have a little bit less of options in terms of which ones I would consider having as a Pan palette versus how many I had last year. I have 6 options, and what I'm going to do is obviously post this video. You can tell me in the comments down below which palette you think I should use as my Pan palette for next year. I will also post on my community tab for anyone who doesn't see this video. So let's get into it. They're mostly neutral and they're mostly boring, so I've realized I don't want a palette with lots and lots of color to try to hit pan on. However, this first one is the last one that I added to the group, and I do feel like it's a little bit of a wild card because it's more on the warmer side, and it is my NARS Afterglow. So majority of these are all older palettes. I think there's only maybe 1 or 2 that are, I wouldn't consider my oldest palettes, but a lot of these are. This is actually one of my oldest palettes in my collection at the moment, but it still performs really beautifully. As you can see, I don't really have too much wear and tear on this. I do have a pan, but other than that, it looks pretty untouched. Like, I don't know, NARS shades are, I would say, pretty hard to hit pan on, so this would also be a harder one. And like I said, it is more on the warmer side, so during those months when I want a variety, I might struggle with this because I don't always want a warm tone look on my eyes. So this is definitely a wild card. I'm not 100% sure that it would work for me, but if you want me to try to use this as my Pan palette, this is option number 1. Okay, next up we have the Norvina from ABH. So everybody tries to do this as a Pan palette. I do have a lot of use on this, and I do think this would be a very easy one for me to roll in for myself. A, I love this palette so much. B, I already have a significant amount of pans and use on it. And 3, or C, whatever I'm doing, these have been relatively easy to hit pan on anyway, and you know, there's a lot of kick up in the shades. It's not the hardest type of formula to kind of get through. So there's a lot of pros for this palette. I can't really think of any negative. I could do a lot of neutral looks. It's not super warm tone. It's got warm and cool tone. I would say a little bit more cool tone, but it's just got more of a variety. And honestly, I think this would make a lot of sense. It's not my number 1 to pick as a Pan palette, but it makes sense. So I could definitely do it. So anyway, if you want me to do the Norvina, then let me know. Okay, and then this one's also not a wild card, but it wouldn't be, again, my first choice to do this, but I do have the Naughty Nude from Huda Beauty. This one is older, but it's not one of the oldest in my collection, but I do feel like the formula in this palette probably only has a year left, maybe less. So I do want to get as much use out of this palette as possible. I do have, obviously I scraped this one. This was like that jelly weird shade. And I do have a few pans scattered around. So I do have some use on this, and this does have a lot more warm tone leaning shades, but there are some that are slightly more cooler. However, there isn't that much variety in this palette. I did do a No Pan Left Behind on here and 3 Looks 1 palette, and I also had this in my project Level Up at some point. So it's been in various projects. What I can say is I really do like the formula in this palette, but there's not a lot of variety. So again, it might be a palette where I get a little bit bored of it throughout the year. However, I would like to get more use out of it. I don't want it to just go bad and then I have to chuck it. And I do find that the formula is changing a little bit. So I think, honestly, it would be one that would make sense for me to try to do as a Pan palette and also just push myself a little bit. So yeah, I mean, all of these I would do. So if you vote for it, I will do it. It's just some will be a little bit trickier than others. I do like this palette. It's not my favorite palette, but I do like this palette. I learned to appreciate it when I did all those projects with it. So anyway, that is contender number 3. Okay, and then this one, I love this palette. It's one of my favorite palettes in my collection, and I barely touch it because it just never gets rolled into projects, and it is the Shadow Kiss from Alter Ego. So I thought, let me roll it in. Maybe you guys will vote for it. I love it. Okay, you look at it, it looks boring. It is a cool tone, lover's dream. It is neutral, and the shades are beautiful. I do like Alter Ego. It's just very, very expensive for me to buy from Alter Ego because the shipping and the customs the last time that I bought from them was pretty unaffordable. And so while the palettes themselves are inexpensive if you live in the US, they are not inexpensive if you try to ship to where I live at the moment. So anyway, regardless of that, I haven't really gotten any other palettes. So I do have the 3 original ones that I received, and this is by far my favorite out of the 3, and it's the one that I've used the least, and I really do think I could use this throughout the year. I love these shades, I love these tones, and it kind of bums me up that I never can get a chance to really go in. I mean, I could go into this all the time and neglect everything else, but you know, when a palette is rolled into a project, it gives me that boost, and maybe I'll get sick of it, but I just love these. I love the mattes in here too. I mean, I love this weird, this gray tone, taupey. I don't know what this is. It's like a gray, but it's lovely. I love it. I love it. And I don't really have any other shade in my collection that is like that. And all these other mattes are beautiful. The shimmers are beautiful too. Now, what I will say is it does take me a long time to hit pan in Alter Ego palettes and like formula. And this palette does not have any of their cream to powder formula. So, and those are the ones that are typically the easiest to, you know, hit pan on. So this would actually be quite difficult for me to get through, but because it's so neutral, I really could use this palette for literally every single look. Even if I just use one matte for a look and then I go into a different palette if I want some color, I could definitely incorporate this into a lot of looks. And that's kind of what I was thinking as well. With the Urban Decay, the Stone Vibes, this does have a lot of neutral shades, but it also has the shimmers that have all these like different colors scattered around. And I do find myself that I go into this more for the neutrals, and then I use a different palette if I want some color on my eyes. And I haven't really gone into the colors too much, like the blues and the green in here. So that's why I'm leaning more towards a palette that is a little bit more neutral, because when I do want that pop of color, I have plenty of other projects with palettes in them that I can incorporate that color in. And I just didn't want to have a palette that was very colorful. I just don't think it works for me. So this one I love. And if you want me to try to pan it, then let me know, of course. Okay, this next one I just thought today, and I think it would be great. I actually have it on my eyes today, and I really do like this palette. It is this one from GlamShop. I'm not going to try to pronounce that. I'm not entirely sure how you do, but this was part of their 70s collection that they came out with a few years ago. And this is beautiful. Again, this is very neutral. It does have you know, some special shimmers in here, and it also has some satin shades, and then obviously a bunch of mattes. So it has a decent variety of different types of formula in here. I have to say I'll probably get through these special shades really fast, but the mattes are really beautiful. Like I said, I have it on my eyes today, and I just really think this would be a great pan palette. Now, this is not one of my older palettes in my collection, but you know, I've had it for like 2 years now, so it's getting there, right? Everything is getting old now. And I think it's really beautiful and stunning and interesting. It's like a neutral palette with a twist, and that also might be really interesting. Whereas the Shadow Kiss is just a neutral palette, and it's a cool tone neutral palette. This one's a cool tone neutral palette with a little twist, because obviously you do have the special shades. So this one I think is definitely on par with being a contender. I would absolutely love to do this one. I would say this is Nugatowa, but I don't know how you properly pronounce it. So anyway, so this is number 5 as a contender. And then the last one was also one that I had as an option for last year. And this one almost won. So I imagine most of you will vote for this one. So maybe you'll surprise me and vote for one of these other 5. But I also am going to include the Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde in here, because this again is actually very neutral. It does lean more towards the pinks and like the rosy tones, but there is a lot of neutral that I can get some wear out of. It does have pops of color too, which does a little, you know, worry me a little bit, because I think I'll probably go through the palette and then leave these, to be fair, because I don't know if I really will get too much use out of them. But this was a contender for last year, and I've been using it a little bit this year, but just not enough. Like, I don't feel like I've used it enough this year to really satisfy me. I do like this palette, and it's always one that I'm like, oh, I wish I could go into that more, but I just never get a chance to. So this is another one where I think it'd be fine. Huda Beauty, I do hit pan in it decently well. I wouldn't say it's the easiest formula to hit pan on, but it's definitely not the hardest. I do think Alter Ego is, out of all of these, would be, oh no, NARS would be, I think, the hardest one for me to hit pan on, and then the Alter Ego, and then the rest of them I think I have a decent shot at hitting pan at a relatively fast rate. So yeah, if you want any of these as my pan palette, or if I have another palette in my collection that I have not spoken about and you know I have, and you want me to do that one, you can throw it in the comments, but I can't guarantee that I'm going to do it. So anyway, so just to recap: NARS Afterglow, Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde, the GlamShop Nugatowa, I don't know, Shadow Kiss Alter Ego, Naughty Nude from Huda Beauty, and also the Norvina from ABH, which I think a lot of you might vote for this one too. So yeah, I would really love for you to let me know what you want to see. I'm not going to tell you which one I want you to pick. So I just want to see what happens, and I will, like I said, post it in my community tab as well. You can vote multiple times, it's fine. So last year what I did is I just, every time I got a comment with somebody adding it, I just added a little tally. And then also whenever somebody liked someone else's comment in the, like my YouTube video, if somebody said, I want you to do so-and-so palette, and somebody liked that comment, I add that as a vote too. So just so you know, I did inflate the votes a little bit last year just to get a good sense of what people really wanted to see. And yeah, you can vote on the community tab, and also in this video if you want, or not vote at all and not watch it. I don't really care. So that's fine. I will just pick with whatever people decide, and I'm not going to let you know until January pretty much what I'm working on. I think I will leave the vote open until the end of December, and then we will see. So yeah, let me know, and thank you so much, and I will see you all next time. Bye.